There is a phrase, they say that if you speak to God, it's a prayer. But if God speaks to you, it's diagnosis. And it is true for our world, our life, but when you read Torah, the first 5 books of Moses, when you read our biblical stories, there are many moments when God directly speaks to people. And in this week, the section of Torah that we are reading has one of these moments. In this case, God speaks to Abraham through angels. There are 3 angels that come to Abraham's house, and they welcome them, they show great hospitality. But the story I would like to focus on is not about hospitality. It's the story when, through angels, God announced the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, 2 cities that, according to the biblical narrative, are full of sin, full of bad things happening. But what's fascinating about this story in the Torah is that Abraham had audacity, had chutzpah, to argue with God. He asked, will you really destroy the innocent among the guilty? What if there are 50 innocent individuals in the city? And God said, Adam, would you still destroy it and not spare it for the sake of those 50? And God said, okay, if there are 50, I will save the city. Then Abraham was focused on justice and fairness. He believed that good or innocent people should not suffer because of the wrongdoings of others. So he pleaded for the innocent in Sodom. When God agreed to save the city for 50 righteous people, Abraham continued to negotiate, asking, what about 45? Then 30, then 20. And finally, they agreed on the number 10. If there are 10 people, 10 good, righteous, innocent people in Sodom, this city would not be destroyed. But I think the main question in this story is not about Abraham's chutzpah. It's about, for me, is that despite Abraham's pleas, these 2 cities were destroyed. Why did it happen? Interestingly, if you read rabbinic interpretations, commentary of later biblical scholars, trying to understand, trying to ask this question and answer it, they all focused not on why it was destroyed, not on this seeming contradiction. The commentators try to imagine how bad the people of Sodom were. And there are options. Some rabbis say they refused to share their wealth with others. Some say that they made fun of those in need and deliberately made their lives more miserable. Some say they refused to care for the sick, support the poor, help the needy, and offer hospitality to strangers, to immigrants, to refugees. Some say that their leaders made cruelty a public policy. And some say that they went so far as to punish their own citizens who reached out to feed the hungry or provide shelter to the homeless. And the last one that I'm going to mention today, that some rabbis said that the badness, the sin of Sodom and Gomorrah was that their judges practiced dishonesty and robbery, and their courts offered no fair treatment for victims of oppression or injustice. As you can see, rabbis tried their best to make the people of Sodom and Gomorrah deserving of their destiny. But by explaining that, they don't answer the main question. Should good people suffer for the evil that bad people do? Abraham tried to save them. He even made God promise that even if there were 10 good people and the rest were evil, the whole city deserved to survive. And we know the story. The tragedy, the strategy didn't work. Probably because there were no 10 righteous people in Sodom. But I cannot ignore the silent question. What if there was one righteous person? Also, who is the judge here? Who decides who is righteous? Later in the biblical narrative, much later in the different book, Moses will find himself in a similar position to Abraham. After receiving the 10 Commandments, he found out that while he was away on the mountain, people turned away from God and from Moses and built an idol, the golden calf. And God's first reaction was very similar to Sodom and Gomorrah. God decided to destroy all people and start a new nation from Moses. Moses could have adopted Abraham's strategy and said, God, what if there were 10 good Israelites who had not participated in the making of idol? But Moses there took a different approach. Here is what Moses said. Both implored his God Adonai, saying, let not your anger, Adonai, blaze forth against your people, whom you delivered from the lands of Egypt with great power and with mighty hand. Let not the Egyptians say it was with evil intent that he delivered them, only to kill them off in the mountains and annihilate them from the face of the earth. Turn from your blazing anger and renounce the plan to punish your people. Remember your servants, Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, how you swore to them by yourself and said to them, I will make your offspring as numerous as the stars of heaven, and I will give to your offspring this whole land of which I spoke to possess forever. So Moses uses here two arguments. First, what would other people say if you destroy everybody? What would others think of you, God, if you killed every man, woman, and a child? And the second argument was much deeper, I think. Moses referred to the past and the future generations. I think this argument is the most powerful here. We know that there were good people in the past. And there is always hope that there will be good people in the future. Even if there are no good people today. If you think that there are good people today. To that, God had nothing to say. And God could not argue with the deeply rooted and radical hope of Moses. The hope for a better future. So this story, I think, has a painful resonance with our world today. The recent pogrom in Amsterdam against the football fans of Maccabi Tel Aviv. People who started it assumed that there were not enough good Israelis among the football fans. On the other hand, it's important to remember that Maccabi Tel Aviv fans are often, not all, but often, quite a radical group of Israeli society. Their chants sometimes include death to Arabs, and there were reports showing Maccabi Tel Aviv fans tearing down Palestinian flags in Amsterdam. So both sides had an assumption that all people on the other side were terrible. And are there any good and innocent people among those who support Gaza, who support Palestinians? Are there compassionate football fans? How many? How do you know that? And who decides who is good and who is not? But most importantly, when you choose the path of destruction and violence, do you not leave any hope that one day there will be good people among the other group? You abandon this hope when you choose the path of destruction. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel wrote the following passage when he explained why he, this rabbi, became an activist in the anti-war movement against the war in Vietnam. He wrote, "There is immense silent agony in the world, and the task of people is to be a voice for the plundered poor, to prevent the desecration of the soul and the violation of our dream of honesty. Morally speaking, there is no limit to the concern one must feel for the suffering of human beings, that indifference to evil is worse than evil itself, that in a free society some are guilty, but all are responsible." It's never too late to be compassionate and kind. It is never too late to start caring for the vulnerable. It's never too late to feel responsible and believe that although the present might be dark, and although you might believe there are no good people on the other side, one day there will be. One day we might live in peace. Shabbat Shalom.